The Weapon Mastery feature was originally introduced in Unearthed Arcana Playtest 5 and had a few reworks throughout the playtests, but the polished version of the feature that we'll be seeing in the 2024 Player's Handbook works like this. Every weapon in the book has been given a new property called a Mastery property. The property essentially represents an advanced effect that someone particularly proficient in that weapon can use. For example, the push effect allows the weapon user to push back an enemy when they land a hit with the weapon. The trip effect gives a chance to knock the enemy prone upon a hit, etc. Most of these effects can be used on every single attack, but some are restricted to once per turn. Using the Mastery feature of a weapon requires you to have a special feature called, spoiler alert, Weapon Mastery. This feature has been added at level 1 to each of the weapon-focused martial classes, which includes the Barbarian, the Fighter, the Paladin, the Ranger, and the Rogue. Each class starts with 2 Weapon Mastery properties unlocked, excluding the Fighter, which gets 3, and you can change one of these learned properties out at the end of every long rest. So realistically, unless you lose both of your Mastery weapons, you should be able to use this feature every single time you take the attack action throughout your character's career from level 1 all the way to level 20. Fighters and Barbarians also unlock the ability to have more Weapon Mastery properties memorized at a time as they level up, and Fighters in particular gain the ability at 9th level to use Push, Sap, or Slow Mastery properties, which I'll cover in just a moment, I swear, with any weapon, regardless of if it is one of their memorized Mastery properties or even if those properties correlate with the weapon they are using. There are a few other ways to learn Mastery properties as well. It's been confirmed that you can access Weapon Mastery through a feat, although the way the feat works is not yet public information. The Soul Knife Rogue's Psionic Blades also always have the Vex property, and at least at Playtest 7, the Warlock was able to use whatever Mastery property correlated with the packed weapon they were using. The actual properties themselves are Cleave, Graze, Nick, Push, Sap, Slow, Topple, and Vex. I'll quickly cover what each of these do, and I'll also mention what specific weapons each of these properties applied to as of Playtest 8, as which they apply to in the official Player's Handbook is not currently publicly available information, but in all likelihood these will be the exact same, as the Weapon Mastery properties themselves haven't changed at all since the playtest either. Cleave. When you hit a creature with an attack using this weapon, you can make another attack against a creature within 5 feet of the original target. On a hit, the target takes damage equal to the weapon's damage dice, but this damage does not include your ability modifier. You can only use this property once per turn. As of Playtest 8, this property only applies to great axes and halberds. Graze. When you miss an attack with this weapon, you deal damage to the target equal to your ability modifier. This damage is the same damage type as the weapon's damage type and cannot be increased in any way. In Playtest 8, this applied to the glaive and the greatsword. Nick. Normally, when you are dual wielding with 2 light weapons, you would make your first attack with your attack action, and then follow up with a second attack from a different light weapon using your bonus action. Mastery in weapons with the Nick property allows you to make the second attack as a part of the same attack action that you use to make the first attack, rather than burning your bonus action. I imagine this pairs really well with Hunter's Mark or Hex. Playtest 8 had this property on daggers, sickles, and scimitars. Push. When you hit a creature with an attack with this weapon, you push the creature back 10 feet. This only works on enemies who are large or smaller. This applied to the Great Club, Pike, Warhammer, and Heavy Crossbow on the playtest. Sap. When you hit an enemy with an attack with this weapon, the target has disadvantage on its next attack roll until the start of your next turn. This applies to the Mace, Spear, Flail, Longsword, Morningstar, and Warpick. Slow. When you hit a creature with an attack, you can reduce the creature's speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. This effect doesn't stack on the same enemy, but it can be used multiple times per turn if you were to target different enemies. The weapons for this mastery are the whip, the longbow, and the musket. Topple. When you hit a creature, you can force it to make a Constitution save or fall prone. The DC for this save is 8 plus the ability modifier used to make the attack, plus your proficiency bonus. This feature is on the Battle Axe, Lance, Maul, and Trident. And finally, Vex. If you hit a creature with an attack with this weapon, you have advantage on your next attack against that creature until the end of your next turn. In playtest 8, this property was featured on the rapier, the short sword, blowgun, hand crossbow, and pistol.